It's just one big story, isn't it?
Hi everybody, welcome to the Story Connection. I'm your host, Donna Wilberg. Well, tonight's story is going to be a little disturbing. It's a story that's very compelling. It's something that needs to be brought out into the open. We are going to be talking about human trafficking. And the person that is going to be speaking tonight has an insight into what's going on and has experienced some of this firsthand. So let's take a look at this. Welcome, Linda Bello Ruiz. It's so nice to have you on the show.
Thank you.
What a hero, to come out and talk about this. Most people want to forget about their past or want to forget about the things they've experienced, but you've actually taken the bull by the horns and you've written a book.
Yes.
And you're an advocate.
Yes, I am.
So let's start at the beginning. How did this all happen for you?
Well, I grew up in a small community, a vineyard community up in Northern California, and went off to college. I was just a normal kid and went off to college, and a bit naive. I met a man on a street corner who reached out to me and started flirting with me, and I fell in love, so I thought. Turned out over time, I didn't know in the beginning that he was actually a pimp, what I now call a trafficker. And there's different types of pimps in the world. There's the guerrilla pimps, and you know that's a pimp because they will beat you, chain you, have you gang raped, beat you into submission basically. And then the Romeo pimps or traffickers tell you they love you. And they gift you things and time and love, and what we call grooming. They groom you, and then they put you on a street corner. So that was my story. I was like I said, a college student. I had a good family. I had a support system, and it's because of that he didn't reach the goals he wanted. That my very first night standing on a street corner in San Francisco, totally humiliated, I was able to reach down and say, you know what? No.
Oh, good for you.
No. But I stayed with him. And it wasn't until a beating that happened months later that I was finally able to wake up and say, this can't be love. What am I doing for love? What am I doing in this life of mine? And here I wanted to be a sociologist, and I'm being manipulated and abused. So the difference is that I had someone to reach out to. I had someone to reach out to, and a lot of girls today don't.
Yeah. That's got to make a big difference. And when you feel like you're alone and isolated in this, plus it's embarrassing, and I'm sure that, during this process, you probably weren't even sure what it was you had gotten yourself into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just thought he loved me. Perpetrators, traffickers, pimps, they look for young, vulnerable, needy girls. So when we're talking about that word need, they're looking for someone who needs love, affection, attention. My problem was very low self-esteem. I was 220 some pounds, and although I had been popular in high school and vivacious, I never felt okay inside. So that was my need. I needed somebody handsome to love me, to make me feel accepted, and he did. Other young girls, their need is different. They may need a home. They may need a house over, you know, to move into, or food, or safety or protection from somebody else abusing them. So the pimps are expert manipulators, and they're on the prowl, and they are looking for young, vulnerable, needy girls.
Now they also get other girls to bring more fresh meat, if to put it bluntly, into the fold. Do you have any insight as to how that works, as far as the girls start manipulating other girls as well?
Well, they bring them into the stable, and usually it's the perpetrator's main woman. Okay. And so she's sure that he loves her, and they're doing this now as a couple, so she's not only making money for him, but she recruits other girls or walks up to a young runaway. There's a direct correlation between runaways and sex trafficked girls, and there's a direct correlation between foster care runaways and sex trafficked girls. So it could be the pimp, or it could be a woman who meets these girls and reaches out and says, come, we'll help you. And they do. And they feed them, and they house them, and they groom them. And then the manipulation starts, either through force and abuse, or through, okay, you love me, you now need to go make us money. And that's what I talk about in my story.
That's incredible. So from that experience in San Francisco, you happened to get into a cult. How did that happen? Linda?
Well, once I ran away from Raymond, I tried to start over, and this was during the hippie days of San Francisco. He'd put a contract out on my life, and he was going to have me killed, and I ran from our small town where we had been, and I went to the big city of San Francisco. And a few other things happened, and I got to the point on a beach in San Francisco on June 13th, 1971, where I wanted to die. And it was like all of my decisions had been terrible, and I was staring at the consequences of the aftermath of terrible decisions I had made. And I just looked out into the ocean and was going to walk out and just walk until I drowned. I had no other reason to go on living. I was ashamed and broken, embarrassed, and I couldn't even tell people, my family, my parents, of the degradation that I had gone through. So that day on that beach, I finally just said, God, if you're real, show me. And within minutes, a group of young kids came walking down the beach playing guitars, hippie clothes, sat down on the beach next to me and said, let me tell you about Jesus.
Oh, boy.
And I said, no. I didn't want anything to do with Jesus people. I was not somebody running off to a church, and so I rebelled, and I just said no, and they sat with me and for 5 hours ministering, what's called ministering to me, and the dam finally broke, and I started to cry, and I just let it all out, and they reached out their hands and said, come. And I ended up joining, I ended up joining the Children of God religious commune that day on June 13th.
And what was that like?
Well, as I had, in a different way, given away my power to be under Raymond's strong hand, I had now given away my power to a religious leader except it felt different. I felt alive and I felt powerful, and we were the last generation, and we were going to tell the world that the world was coming to an end, and to get out and to find the Lord and find purpose. And I traveled with them for 2 years, and I loved it. I don't regret any of that. I was in jail. In fact, the book opens, "Dear Mom and Dad, I'm in jail." I was in jail with this group in Mexico, and everything was okay until the leader changed. And he started sending out directives and missives and instructions that were tearing down what I believed in. And I decided I needed to get out, and I planned an escape.
Wow.
And I got out.
And where did you go from there?
My parents, God bless my parents. I was in Central America when this happened. So they sent me a ticket and they brought me back to Northern California. And they thought, okay, she's home, she's safe. I was going to go back to college, finish my degree. And then one day I was preparing for a television interview on my life in the Children of God. And I was questioning my higher power about what am I going to say when they asked me what I'm going to do with my life. And I heard a voice that's inside me, just this soft, gentle voice that said, go back to Costa Rica and open a home for street girls, for young girls.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, okay. And I stood up and I called my poor parents and said, I'm leaving. And I went on television and I said, I'm leaving. And I bought myself a one-way ticket back to San Jose, Costa Rica, and I got on a plane and I went back.
Wow. Linda,
And
Linda, that's amazing.
With the help of some wonderful people, from the First Lady of the Republic of Costa Rica, Doña Karen de Figueres, a wonderful priest. I mean, I had written to Doña Karen, the First Lady, and said, I want to work for your country with the youth. And I'd written to a Catholic priest. Not being Catholic, but I'd had this friend, he was a Catholic priest. And she wrote back, and she said, contact me when you get here. And he wrote back and said, I'll pick you up at the airport. And I got on a plane. And I went back to Costa Rica, and with the help of some wonderful people, we opened the House of Hope for street girls, underage prostitutes, and runaways.
My goodness.
Yes.
How did, I imagine there's a lot of that going on as well there. So how was this received? This house that you were offering?
The Safe Haven?
Yeah.
Very well, actually. We had political people in our camp, so you know, we had affirmation from the First Lady and senators and political priests and good people in the Christian community. So I walked the streets at night talking to young girls and negotiating with pimps on territory. See, in Costa Rica, prostitution is legal, but not for minors. But nobody was dealing with that part of the issue. And we set out to make a change. Just like now, as it was then and continues to be, if a young girl is caught up in the sex trade and has no place to go, where is she going to go?
Yeah.
So we were the first home.
Wow. That's amazing. And how dangerous. It had to be dangerous.
Yeah, a lot of things in my life were probably dangerous if I looked at them that way.
Yeah.
You know, living with a pimp, being beat up by a pimp, negotiating territory with a pimp in the red light zone in Central America. A lot of that, being in a Mexican jail and taken out of the jail with rifles and put into a van and driven, a lot. But I've been blessed and protected.
My goodness. So you have this breakthrough, you go and you set up this house. How long were you there with working with the girls?
The House of Hope was open 2 years, and I turned it over to the government, and they carried on the House of Hope. And I came back to actually go back to college this time and get a degree and start my profession and have my children. And then I wrote my book, clueless to what was going to happen. And as the book started getting momentum and people talking, and they would say, well, what about the sex trade here? So I naively went on to Google, what do you mean about the sex trafficking? And I had just been clueless for years in my own world, and realized, wow, we have a huge problem right here in California, right here in the United States, and Sacramento, and one of 2 safe havens that exist in California are here in Auburn. And I had to raise my hand and say, how can I help?
Wow. So I've heard, you know, and I'm one of those too that was clueless that there was so much activity going on in Sacramento. We've done another show where we brought on a lawyer who was helping girls, but let's talk a little bit more. What's being done? What can people do? Where can girls go?
There's minor girls and there's of-age girls.
Okay.
And they really are 2 different segments. There are homes and programs for the older girls that want to get out of the trade, and at my website, lindabelloruiz.com, I have resources there. Weave is here in Sacramento, and they have resources. CASH, C-A-S-H, is here in Sacramento with resources. Californians Against Slavery is here. But then there's the minors. So to help a minor, you have to have a licensed home, long-term residential treatment home. There are only 2 in California.
My goodness.
1 in Van Nuys and 1 here in the Auburn area with only 6 beds, feverishly earning money, begging, we're having a marathon this coming weekend to raise money. It's called, the organization is called Courage Worldwide. They're also on my website, and their home here in Auburn is called Courage House. And they have 6 beds, only 6 beds, have turned away 112 girls just recently,
goodness.
The youngest being 9, because there's no beds. And they're allowed 6. But they have 50 acres, and they're looking to build 9 more cottages on that same property with the ability to have 6 girls in each cottage. And then more beds are needed and more homes are needed. We've got up to 300,000 girls in the United States that need where to go, because they can't go back home. They've already been abused at home. They've already run away. They've been in foster care after foster care, and they've run away. Where are they going to go? We need homes, and that's what Courage Worldwide is doing.
So when you're saying, I'm trying to picture, 9-year-olds, running away from home and getting caught up in something like this, how does this happen?
A 9-year-old, given that age, probably didn't run away. She was probably sold. Parents have been known to sell their children into the sex trade. One of my heart girls down in Costa Rica, because there's a safe haven there that I mentor and that I visit, she was put into prostitution by her mother when she was 11. So there's all kinds of terrible, terrible stories. So it depends on the age. They're not all runaways, just so many of them are. There's other ways that they would have gotten caught up into sex trafficking as well.
So when they come to you, how do they find you, for one?
Well, the FBI has task force, number one. FBI has task force. It's their job to rescue these girls. That's not ours. That's not mine anymore.
Okay.
They rescue the girls and they go into the juvenile justice system, and then they need to be placed. Of course, they're looking for the court system. The juvenile court system is looking for family, for parents, for somebody. And if there is nobody, then they're looking for beds. And the girls that go back into foster care, we have to realize, aren't getting the care they need. I love foster care, and there's wonderful foster care parents, but these girls have PTSD. Yeah. They've been brutally traumatized. They've been raped. They've been put out to be raped 10 to 15 times a day, 7 days a week. You can't just hug them and put them into some home. You need quality therapeutic care.
Yeah.
And that's what we are working at getting.
Wow. Well, believe it or not, we're running out of time here. We've got 5 minutes left in the show. So why don't you give your information, Linda, and kind of let everybody know where they can help, where they can find your book.
Sure. My book is available on Amazon. Mm-hmm. It is my story, but it's not just terribleness. That's why it's called Tears to Triumph. There is triumph. So it's my story. It's the story of other girls that came to me in Costa Rica and that lived with me. So it's Tears to Triumph because there is hope, which is why I called it the House of Hope. My website, LindaBelloRuiz.com, LindaBelloRuiz.com, Amazon for the book. On my website are links to Courage Worldwide, which is courageworldwide.org. They are always looking for volunteers, and on their website it says volunteer. Then I'm doing a presentation on July 9th in Rockland at the Rockland Golf Club, 2nd floor. And that is being hosted by St. Michael's Independent Catholic Church. And I'll be speaking on statistics and how girls get caught up in this and how we can help them get out.
My goodness. You're a busy girl.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, well, let's give a little bit of information about the Story Connection.
The Story Connection airs the second and fourth Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our companion show, Paranormal Connection, airs the first and third Thursdays of each month. Each episode repeats the following Friday at 1:30 p.m. and Saturday at 5:30 a.m. Watch these programs online at the same airtimes by going to accesssacramento.org and clicking Watch 17. In the Sacramento region, you can see us on Comcast Channel 17 and on AT&T Channel 99. You can find previously aired shows on the Story Connection YouTube channel. For information on upcoming shows and previous Story Connection guests, go to storyconnectiontv.blogspot.com. You can contact us at storyconnectiontv@gmail.com, and don't forget, find us on Facebook, become a friend, and become a fan.
Wow. Linda, this has been such an amazing topic, and I so appreciate you coming to be informative and being so open about everything you've been through, and what a journey for you. So my last question to you is, what advice do you have for young girls who may be watching the show, or people who know of young girls that may be watching the show? What can you tell us in the last couple minutes?
There's the FBI hotline, tip hotline, where girls can call, or anybody who knows of a young girl can call, and they will get help. Weave, again, is another group that can help here in Sacramento, and other resources that are on my website. But there is a way out. We all have a story. Mm-hmm. As you had said when we were talking previously, these girls don't even know they're in the midst of their story, but they are. And you can rewrite your story, and you can write a new chapter. There is hope, and there is a way out.
Wonderful. Well, let's give another plug for the race that's coming up.
The Courage Run, we have a marathon this coming weekend, and then that's to raise funds for Courage House. And then I have my presentation on July 9th at the Rockland Golf Course.
Okay. So anybody out there who's interested in becoming involved, there are places you can get information, go to Linda's website, and gosh, the more hands the better.
Yes.
And we can't turn this around.
Yes.
Right. So thank you so much again for coming
so
on the show, and your wonderful book. Thanks for writing it so that we can be more informed.
Thank you.
And for all that you do.
And there's hashtag not in my city.
Ah, I love it. Hashtag not in my city.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, everybody, for watching the Story Connection, and thank you to my wonderful crew for coming out, volunteering their time, so we can, put information like this on the air so people can help. So it's a good thing.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you so much, and good night. Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.